Welcome back to Window on Wall Street, a program that shares information about delayed food sensitivities. Sensitivities that may cause symptoms like migraine headaches, chronic fatigue, stress, digestive issues such as IBS, and even ADD, ADHD, just to mention a few. I'm Lauren Koenig, your host, and in today's program, we'll be taking questions from patients who have invested in an Immuno blood print, a simple blood test that identifies foods which could be the cause of many symptoms. My guest today is Jeffrey Zavik, author of the very popular book, Toxic Food Syndrome, and the founder of Immuno Laboratories, the world's most respected source for accurate delayed food allergy test results. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Tell us why the foods you are eating may be toxic even though they are considered healthy foods.
Well, as it turns out that oftentimes we eat foods very repetitively. We eat the same thing all the time, and oftentimes the food is not necessarily cooked or prepared properly. That is, could be overcooked. One thing or another leads to causing a reaction to what might be otherwise a perfectly healthy food.
Now, is it true the more you eat something, the more likely you are to gain a sensitivity to it?
It is certainly possible, especially if it's not been cooked very well, like it's been deeply fried, and if you eat it very regularly. And unfortunately, that's often the case. We in the American diet oftentimes eat the same things over and over again, and not perhaps the healthiest form of that food. So you take something like a beautiful apple, that's great, but a caramel-coated apple, with all the sugar and everything is a whole different thing, and so on and so forth. We tend to eat potato chips instead of whole potatoes and so on.
Now, is it also true to say that the more you eat something, the more likely you are to be allergic to it?
It is possible. It is certainly possible, but it's not always the case. Just that, yes, it's often suspect, and it's not unusual when we do a blood print for someone to say, oh my goodness, those are some of the things they eat all the time.
Now let's take a call.
Hi, I'm Kim from Charleston, South Carolina, and I just took that Immuno blood print, and I'm really challenged here because I am a party animal, and I just love to go out with my friends and have lunch. I can't wait to have the snacks at the parties and happy hours. Any ideas for me?
Well, we can't eliminate partying, that's for sure. And I think it would be unrealistic to think that someone just doesn't have fun anymore because they have to adhere to some strict diet. So it's going to happen. We shouldn't necessarily, especially in the first 90 days of our program, ideally you adhere to it as closely as possible. On the other hand, it can happen. I've seen it happen where within a few weeks someone's feeling much better and then a family member or friend says, hey, can't we go out? I mean, you can't just have a beer or something like that. And when that happens, then what are we going to do? Well, there's a few secrets. There's a few tips that we could get.
I'd like to hear these.
For example, you're much better off if you're going to drink alcohol, if you're going to get off a bit on what you might ideally be doing, you're better off with the straight liquor, such as the vodka or scotch, as opposed to mixed drinks. Like some of the people love these margaritas and so forth. I'm not saying they're not delicious. I'm just saying that when you start combining alcohol and that refined sugar that goes into those mixed drinks, you have a much more difficult thing to digest and assimilate. The other pearl here, and I learned this really over Thanksgiving in particular, but this could be Christmas, Thanksgiving, any party, any holiday time. You look at the total selection of foods, and Thanksgiving's a great one because, as you know, it's quite the feast for most people. You have a wide spectrum of foods. You have turkey, ham, vegetables, potatoes, stuffing, sweets, pumpkin pie, all that. I make a choice in advance, and I highly recommend people do this. You choose to either eat a high protein selection from that evening or a high carbohydrate, but you don't do both.
That's interesting. Tell me more about that. Why?
Well, the body is easier to digest and assimilate the same type of food as opposed to mixing them. It takes longer to digest and assimilate a protein than it would to digest and assimilate a carbohydrate. So generally speaking, combining them makes it more taxing, more bloating on the system. So I find that, and many people will find this as well, if you just make a choice and go, okay, I'm going to have a lot of turkey and ham, as an example, or I'm just going to stay with the vegetables, the cooked vegetables and the potatoes and the salad and so forth, and not get heavily into the protein. That will be one way to weather some of the parties and the impact it may have. The other thing that's happened over time is I'm actually known in one of the carry-out restaurants, the delivery restaurants, they call me No Salt Jeffrey. And the reason is that I noticed that they were making delicious fish and delicious chickens and great meals, but they were taking some kind of a bucket and they were going like this and putting all kinds of salt and seasoning. And I realized that's what was upsetting my digestion because the food was fresh and beautiful. So I just said, you know what, do me a favor, just don't put that stuff on it. And now when I call in, I just say, this is No Salt Jeffrey. And it's just fun for them, fun for me, but they keep the seasoning off and I just digest and assimilate the food beautifully.
That's great. Now, I'm going to a party tonight. Now, can you give me a few tips on what I can do to pretty much stay out of trouble when it comes to my digestion and what I choose and the reaction that I might have in 2 or 3 days?
Right. So first of all, I go on record saying, you know, it's always best for the first 90 days to follow the program carefully and not get off it. But the real world is the real world. And so when you go there, one of the things doing is if you're going to drink a pure alcohol drink such as the scotch or vodka's triple distilled type thing, as opposed to a mixed drink which has all kinds of sugar and colorings and other things in them. Second thing is if the night's going on a while, alternate that drink with water. So you're going to be happy because alcohol is dehydrating. So now you're going to have water as well every other time. And you can have that in a glass that looks like a drink so you don't feel like you're being antisocial or anything like that.
Now, I noticed that after doing a little bit of research, I'm a vodka drinker and I have a lot of allergies as well. And I noticed that certain types of vodkas, you know, are either distilled with corn or potato or rye, because I have a very big wheat allergy, and there's only 4 or 5 vodkas out there that can fit my diet. Now, does that go, for the same for other liquors? And also, when it comes to the amount of times that something is distilled, is that something we need to pay attention to?
I think you've discussed, and this is the exciting thing. This is what happens when you start getting yourself tested and you have your blood print. You start drilling down and researching and learning something the average person never knows. Like most people, it's just vodka is vodka. Well, now you've noticed that vodka could be sourced in potato or rye or wheat and so forth. And so that's the kind of thing each person needs to find out more about. And it's right there. It's on the bottle. You can ask the bartenders. I've had them show me the bottle and so on and so forth. So it's what's right for one person may not be right for another, but you can find out and then make your choices accordingly.
Thank you, Jeffrey. We've got Dr. Mikkel Parsons standing by with some alternative food ideas. Dr. Parsons, any thoughts for our caller?
Okay, you've been invited to a party. You want to contribute. You want to be able to eat something too, but you don't want to be that weird person with the weird issues. So this is what you do. You grab some things that you can eat. Don't bring stuff you can't eat. Bring stuff that you can snack on. One of my favorites are the gluten-free pretzels. They taste the same as regular pretzels. You can do this. You can maybe grab some rice chips and you've got some wonderful salsa. Throw it in a bowl. No one will know the difference. Trust me, they're going to want your food. If you have kids and they're going to a party, then you can get these cheese sticks or the cheddar sticks here. They've got Parmesan garlic. So there are some other unhealthy gluten-free foods for you and your kids. So don't think that you can't go out and socialize if you have sensitivities. Don't let that stop you. Bring your own stuff and you'll be surprised at how people are going to be gathering around what you have because it's actually going to look better than what they're eating.
Thanks, Dr. Parsons, and to you, Jeffrey Zavik. We'll continue with Window on Wall Street after the break, but may I encourage those of you watching who may have a family member, friend, coworker experiencing similar health issues to forward this video to them. And if you haven't had your immuno blood print, please learn more and get yourself tested. I did. Remember, there's a hidden link between what you eat and how you feel. I'm Lauren Koenig, and we'll be right back.